Hello and welcome back to the Renewables podcast. We are out on location yet again. We're taking our recording stuff around various sites like the BBC, and I'm joined again by my regular special guest co-host, Sam. So start with Sam. How are you, mate?
Yeah, very good, very good. Is this going to be a regular thing now? We have to introduce each other as special
Pretty
co-hosts?
much.
Right, okay, cool.
It's
I'll
the
make a
done
note of
thing.
that. No, really good. Another busy few weeks. You've just been on holiday, so yeah, we've had a bit of a break from recording. So yeah, getting back into the swing of it, really. But yeah, should be good.
Yeah, that's it. We've had a few recorded, ready to release, haven't we? And we're kind of catching up with ourselves now. So we're on with some more recordings, and we've got an exciting guest with us in Pete. How are you, Pete?
Yeah, very well, yourself?
I'm good. So you're the manager of Proteus Consumer. What's the actual job title of yours?
So business manager for Proteus Consumer, so looking after the single phase side of the business, basically.
Okay, so you've looking after all the stuff that Ian would say is the baby kind of parts of the
He
industry.
can be quite disparaging towards my product, yeah, but yeah.
So Ian is the manager of the Proteus Industrial, and you're on kind of the same level as him, but looking after the consumer unit side. So you've come through the training system with Proteus, and one of the things I've seen on the visits I've had with you guys over the last couple of years now is that the staff tend to be sticking around here for a long time. You've come through your own sort of training mechanisms and ending up as managers in these businesses. That's your experience as well, with the looks of it.
It is, fortunately, yeah. So I started in 2012, straight out of university. I'd gone to university to do an English degree. Every plan was to become a teacher. Got to the end of it, and no jokes. I was riddled with debt and needed a job, so fell into the game of switchgear. So worked alongside Kieran, so obviously Kieran Jenkins, who former manager, now moved over to the lighting side of the division. Worked with him for a trainee, up to assistant manager, and then eventually 2 years ago, manager. So
wicked. So you'll have seen the emergence of renewables, which is what our podcast is all about, and the effect that's had on switchgear, because it's been quite a lot when you look at EV, isn't it, Sam, and PV and battery storage and the things we're seeing now in regulation changes. There's a lot going on in that space.
I think there is, and I think one of the big challenges, I'm sure, and we'll get into this with the different devices we've got with us in front of us here, is regulation changes, but then also products coming out to allow us as electricians to actually comply to those regulations, and also innovating around those regulations to make sure that or to allow us to do the installs quicker, to remove problems that us as installation electricians don't really want to be having to think about. Again, we'll go into this, but some of the pre-build stuff you do here and lots of other things that you can kind of remove for us as electricians as problems that we may come out on site. I'll just make the installations quicker and easier and a lot neater. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so if you've seen that then, Pete, in your engagement with contractors, I think Proteus are a bit unique compared to other brands, that you are quite direct contact with the contractors.
Yeah.
So we kind of driving you a little bit in what you're
we tried to stay close, with yourselves especially, but we tried to stay close with contractors. We do regular site visits to show them what we can do. Obviously, what we can do is quite versatile, as you've seen today. Some of the things that Ian can do here at the industrial factory especially are quite amazing to show people. And the vast majority of people that actually spend time and come to visit them do often become customers. So it's a real strong asset that we've got within our arsenal.
Yeah, I think to be honest, I don't use Proteus at the minute, but looking around here today, I've been like severely won over, just because there's a lot of things that, we were discussing this with Ian as we were walking around today. Me and Mark have been, and along with a lot of other electricians today, have been walking around the grounds here and seeing some of the single phase stuff, but also a lot of the industrial scale stuff for EV charging, big solar jobs, a mixture of the two, lots of other things, and a lot of the bespoke built. And I'm looking, I'm thinking, I don't know if some of the other brands would do any of this. No. to allow it, to for us as a installation electrician to ring and go, right, I need a product that does this, and this. I feel like a lot of other manufacturers would probably go, well, we've got this product you can buy, and then this enclosure that you can bolt onto it if you want, but all of that is what you have to do out on site. And what really struck me walking around today was that we can effectively, because everything's pretty much built here, with some exceptions, but pretty much everything built and constructed here, you've got to construct that board anyway. So for you to add a meter into that with a little digital readout to tell us how many kilowatt hours that board has used, or that circuit has used, whilst there will be a slight cost increase on that, it's not like you're having to get your board that's on the shelf of a CEF somewhere, take it in, open it all up and redo it. It's a case of whilst it's been constructed, those things can be added in. And I didn't realise that. I thought it would be effectively you would have to take something from stock and then rip it apart, add it in, and you're kind of paying for that whole process, which is really quite cool to see.
I always try and say to people that the cost increase, if any, that we provide for that special build is going to be a lot less than you have to pay for the labour on site. So it's well worth, if you can, getting involved in what we can do with the specials, because all we're trying to do is provide a service that makes your job
and you do
as
that.
easy as it can
You
be.
do that right down to the single phase stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so we do. Whether it's even something as simple as pre-trimming and fitting RCBOs or AFDDs into the board, we'll do all of that at our factory in Redditch, no problem.
Well, just to sort of take us back, just to give a bit of an introduction, because we're all, as lecturers, we're itching to get into some product chat, but to give us a bit of a roundup of kind of who Proteus are, what's the kind of goal/ethos of the company, because it has got a really great feel, having walking around here today, just through from the people working on the production line to you guys in the more managerial roles. It just feels like a really good atmosphere here. So I'm interested to hear a little bit more about Proteus and about the UK sort of manufacturing and supporting that side, and also kind of the goals of Proteus and ethos behind the company.
Yeah, that's fine. So Proteus switchgear, so single phase, three phase, has been in existence since 1988, so longer than I've been in existence. And yeah, so an in-house manufacturing arm of CEF, which obviously has a lot of benefits for us because we've got an exclusive customer and a route to market ultimately that is very beneficial towards us. But the biggest thing that we do, as we've alluded to earlier in this conversation, is that special build. Doing things that other people don't want to do, helping out the customer service that we can offer through that special build, and solutions really, for on-site jobs that you'll need. And I always like to say, again, back to the customer service thing, we're readily available. You haven't got to ring and speak to a switchboard. It's a person at the end of the phone. You ring my office, it's one person, and you through to myself. We'll always just try and offer the best service that we can.
Yeah, no, and I've actually on a job we didn't end up winning, but a big off-grid job, and I was really struggling to find some switchgear to actually allow it to, and circuit protection to allow to be flexible enough to give me those options. So I ended up going through CEF and having a look at some of the products, but I just still wasn't quite clear on exactly how it would work. So I know I rang in and spoke to one of the team, and it's just so helpful. Like it was quite refreshing, because I thought they would kind of just throw me a load of part numbers and just go, yeah, we'll just have a look at the spec and then choose whichever one you want. But they weren't designing the system for me, but they were kind of informing me a little bit deeper than what the data sheet could tell me, and also kind of dumbing it down a little bit to me as well. And yeah, I thought that was really, really, really good, because sometimes you ring these technical support lines and you can tell the person just wants to kind of tick that call off the list and kind of give you the baseline information without kind of putting themselves in a position where they could be criticised that they've overstepped from where they should be. Whereas when I rang the Proteus one, it was very much right. What's the application? What's the situation? And so yeah, I found that really, really, really refreshing. Really.
Yeah, I mean, even obviously there's technical support, office based, but even down to like the sales team. We've got a sales team across the UK that will come out and do those site visits with you, support system with you, and working alongside the CEF team as well to make sure you get the best service and again the product that you need, because you don't want to end up getting to a job and you've ultimately got the wrong kit for the job. So it's working together to find the right solution a lot of the time.
So is that basically what you think Proteus is kind of built on, really? Then?
Yeah, really. I think we're growing and growing and growing ultimately from a single phase and a three phase side. Last year we had record years, so that is thanks in no end to the renewables sector. Both of us are having great success with EV, PV and air source heat pump projects. So obviously our mantra's kind of changing a bit. Consumer units for us should be my bread and butter, but because of renewables and metering products that we do, the consumer units are now a much smaller entity within the business that I'm doing day to day.
That's leaning on your expertise, going back to what you were saying, Sam, about the design. As electricians, we are designing these installations, but when it's coming to some of this stuff, certainly at the larger scale side of things, the switchgear gets quite complicated when you're looking at the CTs, the Type B RCD protection that you need, the MCCBs up front of all that. We can do all of that design, but understanding how that fits best into a space isn't our expertise, is it? So I think having the help of the likes of Proteus, where Ian and his team, we saw that, didn't we, in one of the massive cabinets they've had, and they've actually shrunk it down by half, just their learning journey with this. So, you know, there's savings for us in terms of materials, shipping, building stuff out on site, and that kind of support on that design journey. It's like a collaboration sometimes, isn't it, where we're not looking for you to say, you know, you need a 63 amp breaker up front, for example. We're looking for you to say, you can fit this in one board that'll go in that space and we can deliver it to you. I don't think anybody else is doing anything like that I can think of.
It. Yeah, I mean, we're looking as for my company, we're looking more to go into the commercial side with solar PV, definitely. And one of the big challenges for me is like, well, if I've got a factory and they've usually got a big room that is just a massive switchgear and trunkings and we've maybe got a little bit of wall, it's like, how do we get all of this equipment that we need, all the metering, all the switchgear, isolators, all these different things into what is a small space? And there's always going to be limitations as to what you can do by building it into one enclosure, but I don't want that headache. I want to basically have a chat off-site with a company like Proteus, and again, I've not seen any others that do it. There might be, but I've not seen any. I want to have that conversation off-site and go, this is what I'm trying to achieve, this is the space I've got to play with, and if that means I've got to pay a little bit extra for you guys to put it all into one type-tested panel, because we saw some of the things with like the MATI devices in the big industrial things, and we were discussing with Ian about how that all is type tested to make sure that it's not like getting us into the argument of mixing brands in a distribution board. And he was saying that it's all being tested so that they can sign it off that it's all fine to go in on board, and it isn't the same situation as mixing brands. So things like that, I don't want that headache. I've got enough of a headache getting the panels on the roof, getting the cables in position.
To do the job,
yeah. So I prefer to pay a little bit extra, give the customer a better solution, and and focus on the bits that are the most strenuous for me, which will be putting the cables in and delivering that product on time to the client. So
you've had a nice win, Pete, I've got to say, and we've spoken about this on the podcast with the IET and NAPIT the last few episodes, around the change in regulations and the clarity of bidirectional devices and the fact that your product was already doing it.
Well, we've had a bidirectional RCBO for 4 years. So 2020 we first had a bidirectional device, single pole, switch neutral, so all singing, all dancing, if you will, in a compact form. So we've been happily providing that for, as I say, 4 years, kind of not unaware, but, you know, it's not been necessarily the buzzword at the time. So we have had certain jobs and certain projects that we've had pick up which have requested it, and perfect, we've got the job because we've had the available product. Now, since obviously the emergency amendment was announced, I'm getting a lot of inquiries to my inbox, and it's specifying Proteus bidirectional. So yeah, I'm more than happy with the changes. So
it's nice that you've fallen on that side of history, isn't it? Because there's been many that have fallen on the wrong side of it. But did you want to kind of introduce us to some of these products that we've got here?
Just for reference.
Yeah,
so I've got four specific devices here. So the one I just mentioned was the single pole and switch neutral compact RCBO. So that's bidirectional as standard now.
Yeah, so this is one where you're updating the markings. I think that's one.
So one of the issues, so as much as it was fantastic news, bidirectional, every change we needed to, went our way, should I say. The BEMA technical bulletin that came out, I believe, in March had made reference to the wiring, the markings for the wiring method on the device. Now ours, okay, we've had it for 4 years, so it's followed what we would deem a conventional wiring method for a consumer unit. Now we're obviously having to pivot and react to that. So it's already all in hand. submitted the new design, so the in and the out basically will be taken off, and it will just say LL and N. So we're there. We've obviously just got to work through the stock that we've got. So probably the autumn time this year, we'll have the devices that are, again, fully fitting into that technical bulletin as well as compliant. But on the side of the device, the wiring diagram does show the additional test switch. So, you know, we are absolutely sound on it being bidirectional. We did just a quick marketing thing on it. So we've put together basically a crib sheet with every one of our devices that is bidirectional. So obviously there's some within the range that are unidirectional. So we just wanted to specify the difference between the two, just so everyone was aware.
You've got one product that does it all basically, where some other brands now are reacting to invent something to fill that gap that they don't have. So they're probably going to end up supplying something that isn't bidirectional and an option to have something that is, whereas yours is just straight out of the box. And I remember speaking to Kieran, I think it was probably 3 years ago now, and I was like, well, that's bidirectional, that's a big deal, Kieran. And he was like, you think? Because I think at that stage, battery storage and renewables wasn't so much of a buzzword in industry. Contractors like yourself, Sam, were considered very much specialists with that back then. It's now becoming more mainstream, much as that's probably impacting your business and the ethos of how you've set up. It's like, you know, it's one of those where 1% of the market, if you like, isn't going to dictate what a product does everywhere, is it? But now it's more mainstream, that's going to drive things. We're seeing that in the regs right now.
Yeah, 100%. And, you know, I've been victim of maybe not fully understanding the wording in the regulations and fitting what has now turned out to be non-bidirectional RCBOs on equipment. And for anybody that's not seen the episode we did with the IT, where we did go into a bit more about the bidirectional amendment and everything like that, then basically the problem is the it's the tripping solenoid in the RCBO. From memory of that, we've done a lot of things since that, and when it burns out if it's not taken out of circuit when it's not used. Yeah, so rendering it inoperable in the sense from the earth leakage, it won't pick up that fault. So obviously that's the concern that you've got within it being unidirectional. But this one, by its design and nature, kind of did that already. Which has meant that it is bidirectional, which is really good.
So that's maybe more by accident from the sounds of it that it's ended up.
It was luck rather than judgment, but it came around as a bit of an accident. But we've done our due diligence, done our research, and as I say, we have actually been marketing it as that for quite a while. So we'll cut that first bit out. We'll say this was definitely by. Please do.
Leaning into the point I was making, that you're kind of innovating lots of products like the SPD that goes on a Busbar. That's what I'm thinking about, and the 4-pole RCBO at a 3-phase level. That's something that you've deliberately brought to market to solve a problem. Getting that nice bit of luck for a win on that, you earn your luck sometimes. Falling into place is sometimes an event in other places, if you like. I mean, the 3-module 4-pole RCBO just sells itself. You know, we obviously do the Tech Talk roadshows all around the country. I don't sell the industrial switchgear, but I just stand there. It's the easiest sell you can have. We're definitely at the forefront of innovation. And, you know, we're not, I'd say, a big brand name, but little old Proteus, we always say we're there trying to offer the best solution we can.
I've said this all through today. It's basically, if you wonder if there's a product out there that does it, I've always gone and had a look see if Proteus do it, because you always seem to have it. if you feel like it's gonna come out, or you know, there's something that has just come out and you're like, oh God, I'm going to have to start fitting these bidirectional RCBOs, and you kind of, as soon as you hear that Proteus have got it, you're kind of like, well, obviously they've got it. But like I said at the start, I've never really been, we've used some Proteus gear, but I've not used it kind of as my main source. And I don't know why, because I've always known that if there was something that's going to come out, it's Proteus that are going to bring it out. But because I've not seen, I'm assuming it's that one that's just behind you there, the 3-pole. So it's this one, Yeah, so I've not seen that before. But you use quite a bit of Proteus stuff, don't you? Yeah, so they're handy on 3-phase 22 kilowatt EV charge points. So to be fair, Proteus EV engineered a board. They help solve that problem where you'd have an MCB and a 4-pole RCD at the top. Right. But that kind of removes that from being needed now. So in a way, you've removed a product range from your lineup to put that in place. But these, you can put them straight in a spine board. You've got your overcurrent protection, fault protection, all in one product.
opens all 4 poles on a fault, it's absolutely ideal. I don't think they're bidirectional, are they?
They're not bidirectional. It is something that Ian and his team are working on, but we're not really necessarily close to.
Yeah, but currently if you were using it on an EV installation, the only reason why it would be a problem it not being bidirectional is if that was for some reason being used as a vehicle to home or vehicle to grid charge, which is
unlikely.
It's not like a major concern at the minute, so there's no necessary urgency. So.
But that's the innovation of the brand, and I think your understanding of Proteus, Sam, is newer than mine, because you're considerably younger and more handsome. But yes, my experience of Proteus at the start was consistent with a lot of electricians. It wasn't the best, to be fair. I think there was an issue with the brand, and we still see some overhang of that in older electricians' views, like my own. I have those conversations on YouTube videos and stuff when I've shared some of your content sparks that are in the 40s, like I won't use Proteus, because there was that, way back when. And I think over the last 10, maybe 15 years, it's a totally different company. I think that's an important message to keep getting over to the older long in the tooth sparks like me, that things have changed.
Yeah, I wouldn't like to name drop customers that we've got necessarily, but we're dealing with a lot of blue chip companies, should I say, really large entities that when you're looking at quality control and everything that goes into dealing with these companies, they wouldn't be dealing with us if we were no good. We're also 9001 accredited, so our quality processes day to day have to be up to scratch as well. So we really try and do everything we can to provide a safe and well working product.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, and this isn't me trying to hype this up because of this podcast, I was blown away by walking around here today and just looking at the kit and everybody working there as well, and some of the electricians that were with us on this open day today raised the point of I had this as well. I expected to walk into where things are being put together and manufactured to be kind of like with a lot of machines doing it, and it being kind of like this soulless kind of warehouse where things just got made, but it was people having a laugh and a joke, putting things together with their hands, which sounds really stupid, but it was actually taking us back to kind of this British kind of manufacturing. I know not all of it is made in the UK, but to see it being those technical skills of putting this equipment together in the UK and everything is really good to see. And it did give me a little warm feeling. I thought, maybe we aren't completely out of being able to manufacture and do these technical things, because I could see it walking around, people putting together these big panel boards and switchgear, and even just down to 125 amp distribution boards. All that sort of stuff was being done, and it was, like I say, really good to see, because you just don't think that happens in the UK anymore.
I think our greatest strength is our people, and that's not a cliche, not just saying that because it's like a buzzword in a sense, but I always say we have these record years, record months, whatever. I always say to kind of senior management, look, we wouldn't be there without the people who are doing it day to day, because as I say, the vast majority of it is manufactured, especially in the industrial division, but even more so in my division now with what we're doing in the renewables sector. So, and it comes down to the length of service, the experience that we've got within the team. The vast majority of the staff are at least 5 years, but we've got even people 35, 40 years with the business. So you can't replace that expertise. You can't just go and employ someone and replace that. So, it would definitely feel a massive void if certain people left the business. So we have to obviously give them a lot of credit.
Yeah, British manufacturing is something that we should all support. We see this erosion of it all the time, don't we? And I think you're actually growing. I mean, around the business, it's not just Proteus. There's Tamlex, there's Centaur, and other associate brands, when they're all seeing this growth, and it all revolves around their staff. At the end of the day, I've been on a few of the other factory tours, and it's the same thing in all of these places, Sam. It's full of people just like that, and I think it's huge credit to CEF, the wider group, and the whole ethos, because I think it runs through the entire thing. So it's really nice to see close up, and I guess you've been part of that through your 12 years now. You'll have seen that up close, and the development of these products again. I guess that involves a similar process of technical people.
It's changed a lot since I started, for sure. The market, how many amendment changes into the Warren regulations have we had in just the last 12 years? There's been oodles and oodles of them, haven't there? So all seem to work in our favour, I feel. They all seem to.
I was just going to say that every time there's an amendment or a new full regulation coming out, a new book, do you kind of go? I have a joke.
So one of my friends works for M2 Wiring Accessories, and he always says, like when there's a new wiring regulations or amendment come out, he says, how are you going to make more money this time? So we always have that joke, and the bidirectional thing come up. I sent it to him, and he was just like, for God's sake, just knew this was going to happen at some point. So.
I mean, the arc fault's the other one, isn't it? That's the ones we've got on here. So obviously that change was a bit ago now, but I think we're going to see a stronger change in that direction over the next editions of the regs, where these are going to be mandated more often. And you've had this product considerably longer than most, I think.
The inception of it was 2018. It was at the time a double module device. So you had like an RCBO on one side, an AFDD on the other side. It was connected by a little 2-pin bus bar. It served a purpose, but we kind of did it as like a soft launch. We kept it isolated to people we knew, contractors that we were close to, CEF guys, so that we could almost keep that ring fenced a little bit. We didn't want to do a major launch and then be doing recalls or whatever. So kept it ring fenced because there's a lot of trial and error, thinking of nuisance stripping. They're very sensitive devices, listening for the noise on the circuit, and some of the things that we found you would have never expected. I think the strangest one we had was an iPhone charger. Switching it on and off was fine, but if you had it switched on and pulled the USB part out the bottom, that tripped the device. So all this trial and error we had to do. So we started on like the firmware was firmware B. We're now up to firmware G. So we've done that, and touch wood. Luckily we're at a wood table. Touch wood, we don't really hear of anything back. So we think we've done that. We think we've done our time with it, and now we've got a very good device, really.
We see that with some other, not going to name any other brands on there, we don't want any cease and desist letters, but there are other brands out there that have released that equipment, and you wonder if they've done that level of testing on it. And they might have done, and it might just be an unlucky thing that they're facing, but there has been a lot of chat about kind of AFDDs either not working or working too sensitively, and that's what does worry me a little bit about them being introduced more widely, because I think at the minute it's HMOs, care homes,
high-risk residential,
and on socket outlets. So it's quite an isolated area, but as soon as that opens up, a bit like RCD protection that opened up, you're then opening that risk of nuisance stripping. So you'd hope that these products are being tested more rigorously, and that you're not going to get those callbacks because there's a problem and you can't find it, and if it's the device that's causing it. But yeah, it sounds like you've been through that journey. I think with the price of them as
well, you don't want corners being cut ultimately, do you? Everyone races to the bottom in the industry, it feels like. So, it's an expensive product, it's a premium product, but it's obviously doing a very important job.
Yeah, I mean, as we spoke about on this chat we've had today, that these were kind of introduced because of Grenfell, so the ultimate purpose of them is safety, and I think while that's forefront to any changes that are made, we'll accept that, because if it stops fires, that's a good thing. But when these are over-applied and they become a cost burden, and then maybe putting consumers off from upgrading their 3036 fuse wire board even to RCD protection because they're £1,000, £2,000 in, that's maybe when it's stepped too far too quick. So I think the regs are going more slowly due to that. So we'll probably see, I would guess 19th edition, we might see these being mandated on all circuits above maybe 16 amps or something. That might be the next step.
It'd be interesting how it's applied to things like solar inverters and things like that have inside of them quite a lot of arc fault detection protection anyway. Obviously it wouldn't necessarily protect the cabling up to that point, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see, because one of the other interesting things that we saw today on the presentation was the fact that you've got the AFDD, which has obviously an RCBO and arc fault detection built in, but also MCB and AFDD, so that because that's one of the things that we try and do with pretty much all of our batteries, inverters and everything, is try to keep them off RCDs if we can help it. Obviously there's certain situations like the earthing system and inverter requirements and things like that where we have to put them on, and wiring systems where we have to put them on RCD protection, but when we can, we try and keep them off that. So if it goes into the regs where like you mentioned, Mark, any circuit over 16 amps needs to have AFDD protection, then does that mean we also have to, just because of the devices, put that on an RCBO as well, because that's what's built in? So I quite liked the fact that's where my brain went straight away when I saw it come up. I thought, oh, well, good, it means we don't have to put them on an RCBO. So if you've got an MCB, an arc fault detection device as well, which I know it's not the same one, but you just explain what the difference would be on the, because this one here has got an RCBO.
Yeah, that's the RCBO one.
So the one that you, well, that's gone.
Are we on a PIR? We sat still too long.
I think it's down there.
I'm going to give it a wander.
Hey, we're back on.
If you cut that bit up.
Yeah, we'll cut that out.
We'll see. But yeah, so the AFDD that you've got there, which has got the RCBO element built in, the only difference that you'll have there is basically the test button.
Yes, no test button, and the earth leakage CT within the device is cut out. So that is the only difference. It was for one project really, large project. They wanted AFDD MCB because they only wanted one RCD at the front end that they wanted to do their test on. They were having, it's kind of like a production line of say 350 units a month. It was all about time. And again, it's a good story we have for kind of our flexibility, because we had a sample delivered to them within 3 weeks. So a brand new product from inquiry to delivery within 3 weeks. So we were a bit resistant to it at first, but it's been very lucrative for us. So we were quite happy with it when it was ended. And I suppose the other thing within AFDD MCB is future-proofing retrofits. You know, the amount of dual RCD and split load boards that are out there.
It's sub-main circuits I was thinking of for the use of that. So if we've got that 9 milliamp limit, as we know, on an RCD protected circuit, if we're having to fit arc fault protection with an inbuilt RCBO on it, upfront supply to a sub-main circuit that could be feeding out, I don't know, someone's shed supply that's then got a hot tub on it, or maybe a PV system as well. You've then got that 9 milliamps maximum leakage that you're trying to factor out from the RCD. So you may need to use RCBOs down at the shed, to cut long story short. So the fact you can use an arc fault with an MCB up front of that, you're avoiding selectivity issues of staging your RCDs. So it's just flexibility in circuit layout, isn't it? And having that option in the range. You know, it's maybe not something you're going to be using it an awful lot of, but when you need it, it's there, isn't it? Like you said.
Yeah, I'll be really interested now that I know about that. You know, you guys having that. I'm going to keep an eye on some of the manufacturers out there, just because I don't know if they'll even be thinking about that.
Yeah.
Unless they watch this podcast, obviously. But, but you know, whether or not they're even thinking about that, because that has come from you guys engaging directly with contractors and asking if something's possible, rather than just going through your catalogue, no, we don't have that product. Yeah. It's kind of like more of, can we make that product? Can we adjust that product? And
absolutely.
And also, like you say, it's been a lucrative thing, but equally, it could have been for that one project, and then you would never have sold another one ever again. Yeah. But it's trying to keep that flexibility, which
it's now a product line that's available. CF online, it's available for anyone to buy. So. You know, we are more than open to new products as long as we can. You know, as long as we can do it, it's safe, and it's worthwhile doing. We will do it. So we're very flexible.
Well, that was a fantastic segue, because I think you've got a new product.
Teed up. Yeah. So this is an exclusive. I think that's what we said.
That's what we said. Yeah.
It will have been
first exclusive, isn't it? I think, Sam. Just to say, we've been trying to get one every single week.
We saved it for you. We've had it sat. It's been sat on my desk for 6 weeks, and I've been saving it for you. So, Renewables podcast. So this is our hot off the press Type B single module RCBO.
Can we put in like a
microphone?
So is that double pole?
This is double pole. Yeah, it's bidirectional as well, which was obviously one of the key things. And it is actually all marked up correctly, so you can see no in and out. And if you another little, I don't know how we can get this on the shop, but we've popped a little bidirectional symbol, and that will be on all the devices going forward as well, just for ease of identification.
It doesn't help you audio listeners, but it does have it on there.
We're trying to help YouTube.
Yeah. So that is for anyone listening on audio, that is the arrows that are basically pointing up and down. So to show that
that's what
energy flow can.
Is that a logo you've invented, or is that Summit Industries put forward? I
think it was just done in our design team, to be fair, but it's quite an easy.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, we put it on all our market materials. So if you look at on our websites, if you look on our data sheets, etc., it's all there. So we're trying to make it as clear as possible. What is bidirectional?
We spoke about that on I'm sure we did. We either spoke about it on the podcast or off the podcast with the IET when they came on to discuss bidirectional, and they mentioned that they quite liked that logo as well. And
Yes.
cause it's just very, very easy to see, right, okay, it's going through it in both directions. It's very easy to see. So that might be another effect on the market that you guys have. It might be that is adopted.
I mean, ultimately it started as a marketing tool, but now it's become, actually this is worthwhile having on the product. So for the guys, opening the lid on your consumer unit, you can see it straight away. You haven't even got to.
Well, that's the problem, isn't it? Because a lot of products have a lot of information on the side, and when that's in a board,
exactly,
you've got no chance, have you? Unless you start taking it all apart. So to try and get that information on the front,
well, it's just saving time, isn't it? Making it as easy as possible.
Because you do feel for, and some of the electricians that were here today on this open day thing, I was chatting to a few of them, and they were saying that they haven't been involved with renewables or anything like that before, and they're having to do EICRs where there are a lot more renewable systems being put in, either from the feed-in tariff days or within the last 5 years and things, where now they're having to actually test and certify that things like the solar PV or the battery storage system is compliant and can code it if it isn't. And so for them, having clear guidance and clear logos to look for kind of allows them to instantly make an assessment as to whether or not that RCBO, that solar PV system or battery storage system, or looking forward, that bidirectional charger, that EV charger and things like that are that property has installed are on compliant devices, can only be a positive thing. So
it's essential that the brands kind of get their heads together, I think, and come up with an adopted marking that we all know means bidirectional, the same way that you'd see a B-type or a C-type or whatever on the front of the product. It's just something that explains what it is. We can see it visually from the front, and those two arrows tick that box for me. So it's no brainer. But going back to that product, Pete, has that been kind of innovated due to consumers' demand, or is it just something you pitched to market?
Ultimately, it's what we saw as Utopia. This is what we want to achieve. This one hasn't actually been requested, which often that is the way that things come about. But this is just looking for that Utopia product, and I think we found it. So so it's not available just yet, but it is kind of ready. We're going to garner a bit of industry feedback, as we always would do. Obviously, we've spoken to yourself already about it. So if people want it,
it's there now, isn't it?
It's there.
So that's primarily for the EV and PV market, I'd be thinking, isn't it, where you need those Type B RCDs. But even if you've got RCDs staged, although we have the selectivity issue between the milliamp rating, I remember speaking to Chris from Proteus a while ago that he was saying actually you need to start considering having your B types up front of your A types because of the potential blinding that you could have if you had an A type at source. Sometimes it's unavoidable from your cable installation methods that you might have, where you're taking an RCBO at source down to a garage or something, which will also have a load of RCBOs in. So you've got them selectivity problems there. But if you had a Type B up front, at least you know that couldn't ever be blinded by those final circuits in the garage and then render it useless.
Yeah, a bit of a fail-safe by having that, at source that would ultimately just disconnect everything if there was an issue. Yeah, because I remember, well, they're still out there, but like 4-module B type RCDs, and I'm looking at that thinking, how was that all in there?
Our first RCD was 4-module. Our standard RCD B type now is 2-module, but again, you're still going to have an outgoing MCB in a lot of applications for that. So just.
Are you doing a 3-phase version on the Type B that go in a spine board, or are you sticking to a Type A?
We haven't got one as yet, but we're always.
You're on the hunt for a second.
I've only got one.
Another exclusive.
One exclusive. I haven't heard. I've not heard anything of that, but it's not to say it won't happen. But you'd have to ask Ian on that one.
I'm just thinking again of 3-phase EV charge points. We did. I can't remember the name of the brand now, but that specified the Type B RCD for it, and we had to put another separate enclosure on and all that after that. Whereas if it's a singular product to go in, it's an easy win, isn't it? So, but again, that's just as time evolves, I guess. We don't know what these products are going to dictate they need. A lot of the time, we're relying on the manufacturers. I think they've all shifted their approach now, where they're not putting the overcurrent protected devices into the products. Lots of these 22 kilowatts, for example, used to say they had pen fault in, they had RCDs in. Now they've all shifted that to say, actually, we don't. You're going to need to figure that out up front of the devices. And this is you meeting that hole in the market, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah.
Why do you think that is then, Mark? Do you think that's because they're a bit...
They got it wrong, I
worried?
think.
Yeah, a bit worried about backlash on equipment not working correctly and...
Pretty much.
And just pushing that. I suppose it could possibly be that, you know, they had to include it to compete with everyone else on the market, but now there are so many chargers that kind of do it, that can kind of ease back from that now and go, you know what, we're fairly established now, we can put our product out there, but maybe not include all the bells and whistles that it used to have, bring the price down again, which maybe helps them compete on that very tight market now, because every man and the dog's got a charger out now. And then with other products coming out on the market that are quite easy to install, allowing them to take the heavy lifting of the pen fault and the protective devices like this. Like, for that to be, I keep picking this up because I just cannot believe that's a B-type. But, you know, devices like that we can just bang in a normal three-phase board, you know, Proteus three-phase board is, you know, takes a lot of the sting out of the tail. And if it's a cheaper charger and we can get everything in there with maybe a, you know, pen fault detection device as well, then happy days.
I think there's two problems the manufacturers of EV charge equipment faced. One is their innovation to that problem revolved around electronic solutions that could be automatically reset, because they didn't want engineers going out to physically have to reset breakers in the product, be that RCD or pen fault. They wanted it auto resetting. It was electronic, but then when they actually looked at that, it didn't comply with what we needed in BS 7671, so it wasn't satisfying things on our side. So then they started innovating the protective devices in the products. We see that a lot. Again, I'm forgetting the name of the chargers now, but there's a few of them where they have the RCDs inside them. I think some old Rolex do, some pod points. So it meets the intent of the regs, but obviously if it operates, it's inside the charger. You need to send someone out to do something about that. The consumer can't reset it. And there's the cost implication of service teams and such to look after all of that. So now they seem to be shifting back, like, okay, we'll let the electricians look after that. And then if something does trip as a first kind of fault finding protocol, we can ask the consumer or a caretaker or whatever to reset those breakers in the first instance, and they're not got service teams, they have complied with the regs. So I think there's maybe bits of that. I'm not really sure, to be fair. That'd be my guess if I was going to have one.
I think it's also a lot of these charge point manufacturers do not manufacture the double pole RCBOs that were put in these devices. So if they've backed the wrong horse, and I know Rolex did have a problem with some of their, and there's probably many others. I'm not trying to dig out Rolex here, but I know they did have a problem with some of those RCBOs burning out. But to my knowledge, they didn't make those RCBOs, and that's probably, you know, that's kind of out of their control. And like you mentioned, if you have a property that has maybe 5 or 6 chargers, and the only thing that can trip is within the distribution board in the plant room, that allows that on-site operations team to actually go to where they're usually going to have a look if something's tripped, rather than opening up a charger that they didn't install, that they don't want to avoid warranties, to actually look at what has tripped and things. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see if more manufacturers basically remove that equipment, and it's probably driven by innovations like this, because they kind of go, well, the products are already there. There's no point in us taking that liability in our equipment. No. We'll just let, you know, the products are out on the market now. They're fairly cheap and cheerful. You know, I don't know the price of any of these things, and I know this one isn't out yet, but they can kind of remove that from the charger cost and maybe make themselves more competitive on the market.
That's such a good point. That is a really good point, because there will be the cost implication their size, and it won't be low cost. Whereas someone like Proteus, for example, who can mass produce these, obviously they're going to be making them for a lot less money. And my view on it, maybe it's a bit old school, so I'm an older electrician again, but for me, all of your isolation and protective measures should be in the fixed wiring system. Products like an EV charge point are more product standard based, and they should be looking at that and keeping their fingers out of what we do, as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, it's been that, we've said it a few times, that blurring of the lines between product standards and wiring standards, and I think they have got two overlapped. They need to kind of pull them apart a little bit, and I think we're starting to see that. And that's a good thing for both PV, EV, battery storage. I think it's really important that we do have that still in the fixed wiring, and we don't just rely on it all being in a product that we've put a cable into.
I think it's been that dog-eat-dog kind of rise of EV, and everyone trying to get that one upmanship on their competition. You know, the competition has released it where you suddenly only have to supply it via an MCB, and there's a lot of chat about that, but because everything is built within the charger, and then the other manufacturer goes, oh god, they're going to get more of that market now because they've included that, so the next version of this other company's charger has it built in, and it's all that one-upmanship on the rise of EV, because it was mental. There was another charger coming out every week, like back in the real heavy days of EV charging, and now that's kind of plateaued a little bit. I'm wondering if they're starting to look at how they compete more on price and liability, like I've just been through. So it'd be interesting to see how that changes over the next.
Did you see that a bit, Pete? It's kind of marketing these products to electricians, making us aware of them. Obviously, you've got your network through CEF, so you've got a good angle to speak through the tech talks and all of the branches and stuff. But when this stuff's coming out, is that a challenge to make us aware of it?
Well, to be fair, to their credit, Taylor and Spencer very well. They do a brilliant job. We try and be available online on social media, trying to give you as many marketing tools as we can. We're open to feedback, and we've spoken at length, haven't we, about products and how feedback aids new product innovation that we come out with. So yeah, I think there can be challenges. I think the social media world brings its own challenges. We see, not stupid, we see things online, we see negative press, we have good press and bad press. Most of it's good, fortunately, and obviously thanks to you for your support in that end, Mark. But I think you've got to be there, haven't you? You've got to be marketing, you've got to be available online, and online presence, and look available to the electrician and be a resource to the electrician as well, I think.
Yeah, I think one of the really hard things is that one of the reasons, to be quite frank, as to why I've not used Proteus that much is because it has been very much tied to CEF, and I've got nothing against CEF. I do use them, but electricians can be quite tribal with what wholesalers they use. We use a little independent one in York for the majority of our equipment. So I think sometimes I wonder if that's maybe a bit of a tricky ground to tread, being kind of quite exclusive to CEF.
It's difficult because I think I said right at the top, there's so many positives to it. We've got a guaranteed customer, 400 branches, absolutely fantastic. So I wouldn't like to speak badly of CEF whatsoever. So I think we definitely do very well out of that relationship. But I think from a contractor point of view, as we're referring to, if they don't use CEF, then they can't use Proteus, or ultimately, can they? So, and then the flip side of that is CEF's competitors who can't get a Proteus product. Do they talk badly about CEF at the same time? So that's definitely one of the bigger challenges that we have. But we're always switching people over, and it's just having those conversations, getting people to come and see us and begin to trust us, I suppose, and showing them, like yourself, what we can do. You're going to place an order for 100 terminal blocks after this, aren't you? So
I'll talk to you about that.
The social media stuff that I mentioned, Spencer and Taylor was looking at that pink terminal block there, because that is something. All these products that you've innovated are brilliant, and they've gone out into market really well, but these just fly on social media posts. And that pink block, the Cranis collection, for those people who don't know, was innovated for Darren Cranis and his love of pink from the ECA, and now that's kind of emphasised that whole range, I think, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think, to be fair, we did one post on the 6 blocks. It was just a standard post that Taylor was doing. She had no expectancy of it blowing up, and it absolutely went crazy. We had our most impressions, most likes. So they're out from a consumer side, they are my highest selling product per piece. Sell probably 80,000 of them a month. So so it's massive. But still, loads of people don't know about them. People probably see it online, but I do the tech talks. I go around the country doing tech talks, and the amount of people that come up to me and say, "Oh, what's this? Oh, I didn't know you did this." So we're working on that, and it's there's new terminal block displays that have gone into CEF, so onto the trade counter, just trying to make awareness and show people that we've got them. But yeah, it's innovation. It's finest, really, and it's so simple. So simple. I wasn't involved. I wouldn't like to take credit for it. It was Kieran. But yeah, so simple, but so effective.
I think that underneath the colour and the fancy outlook of them, they're actually a really good product. They're one of the better 100 amp connector blocks that are on the market. The fact you can expose the terminals without having to knock them out with a screwdriver, and the connections inside them are solid and robust. The colour's just the finishing touch, and I didn't think you'd sell any of those pink ones, to be fair. I thought, who's going to want a functional air fan? It's great that you've done that for Darren, but from what I've heard, you've shifted a lot of that.
Yeah, we are, yeah.
Yeah.
Starting to, so...
Yeah, it's really good. For years, well, ever since I was an apprentice, I've only ever used the Bakelite version. I think Click Do one and some other, but the amount of times you needed like an extra port out of it, and you didn't want to disconnect absolutely everything to get the block out the middle to knock the little plug out, and just something simple as the slider there, so that if you can basically just snap that extra one off to reveal it. It's just, whilst keeping those other ones capped off, it's just fantastic. And the colour coding is great because we've all been there on a Friday at 5 o'clock and the job's not gone that well, and it just helps you eliminate that polarity mix up, which may not have happened once or twice.
We call them idiot proof.
They've not passed my test yet. I think it's for the visual side. Renewables, we see that. I get a lot of requests about want the nice concrete backboard, want all the trunking looking good and the plans and stuff. And if you finish it off with something like that, it does make a difference. It's something the consumer sees. Ultimately, they don't care about a lot of what we're doing.
No.
They're not bothered, but that leaves an impression, I think. They're like, oh, look at that. Made an effort there. It looks decent.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if it rolls about in the van for a little bit, it isn't all smashed up when you open it up as well, which is nice.
You get a bit keen with your tap on the screwdriver from the Bakelite one, and it all smashes to bits.
You really have to throw them. You really have to throw them. Yeah,
no, that's good. And kind of, like I mentioned, whenever I was unsure if there was a product to market, I always had a quick nosy at Proteus's offering to see if it was there and if there was products coming out. And kind of, obviously, we've revealed the B-type single module RCBO, but is there anything else in the makeup of like the regulations that you might know more about than what we do, that you're looking at on its way down the track that you can think of, or things that you're working on?
We've begun to dabble within three-phase consumer units from our side. Bit of work ongoing with some of the DNOs on that side of things, but nothing really majorly that I can fill you in on.
Yeah,
NDAs.
We're on the hunt for that other exclusive.
I'm sure there'll be other products on the way from Proteus. We've seen it over the last couple of years. Such a lot you guys are bringing out.
If we hear anything, we're on it. Let's just say. But
so the last product there, just to round up those products.
Yeah, we've missed that one, haven't we?
Yeah, we missed that one. We were too excited about this this new boy here.
Yeah. So this is just the 2-module double pole RCBO. So predominantly selling a 40 amp for 7.2 kilowatt EV chargers. We kind of touched on it all, didn't we? And then didn't touch on the product, I think, just thinking about it now. But so again, fully bidirectional. The markings on that one are ready to go as well, just to make that point. So again, selling thousands of them, and back to the conversation we had about people taking it out of the charger, I'd be on board for that if you can make that happen. I'd be very happy for that to happen. So but again, that one, they are in that range. They're fully 10kA rated as well as standard. So
okay, because obviously they're going to be at source, aren't they? So they need that.
Just that bit extra.
Yeah, no, it's good to see that you kind of are trying to cover off all the different scenarios, and we've spoken about this tour we've been on today, Sam, and I would say if there are any other installers out there who want to come and have a look around Proteus or any of the other brands, you guys got open doors already.
We have. We're as long as it doesn't clash with another meeting, we're always open to have people around. We probably have, I'd say, 2 to 3 visits a week. So we're very open to that. It's one of our biggest strengths. So let's show it off and let's get people there.
When you mentioned about coming on this, Mark, I was obviously excited to come, but I was a bit like, it's going to be, how many products can we put you down for, towards the end, and I did not expect it to be as interesting as it was. Certainly going around the industrial side, which again, like I said, is something that I'm trying to get more into. But looking at some of that and thinking, why wouldn't you just get this bespoke made? Like having to try and manufacture on site some of these really quite technical and chunky bits of kit using the products that you can buy off the shelf, pay that a little bit more and ask and have a conversation with these guys to actually say, can you put all this in one neat box for us, all type tested, all ready to rock, pre-wired in some cases, just ready for a gland, the gland even cut in ready for you, and the cable just needs to be terminated in onto the bus bar. I'm sure you'd even do that if you could. Like literally every little bit is covered off. And one of the ones out there was that there was a request that the installer had made that they don't want to bend the cable, so they had to have a side entry so that the cable basically just came in the side and straight onto the bus bars. Just stuff like that, and you just don't even, until you see it, you don't think that a company would entertain that level of intricate design and manufacture. And that is and that's not your area, but that is the part that I would really encourage a lot of people to come and see, because it gives you that greater feeling and ethos around the company of, look, nothing is too much trouble.
I always say when we kind of do our visits, as long as it works, then we'll do it. As long as we can do it, we will do it. It's very rarely a no with us. So
if someone wanted to contact you, Pete, to ask you to make, 100 EV or PV boards or whatever, a single phase domestic welder things, how would they do that? Is that through a CEF branch, or is that on the phone to you? How does that work? It can be
either, really. It can either go direct to their local CEF, whichever that may be. I said my email's available, my phone number's available, it's on my email signature, so I'm readily available. Quote can come to me and I can just deal with the relevant CEF party at that point. But yeah, I'm happy to speak to anyone at any time of the day to try and get the solution sorted for them.
Fantastic. Yeah, because I'm just thinking even down at some of the stuff we do, Sam, having those boards, we're starting to see it now already, aren't we, where you get the main AC isolation point in the board, even the DC isolators in there as well now. I think you probably see requests coming in for that. Yeah. You might be already seeing them.
Yeah. We see all sorts of stuff come through, so...
Yeah, it's one of those, if you don't know about it, you can't ask for it, can you? So.
No. Yeah. Industry's best kept secret.
Yeah, it is honestly, because like I say, I wasn't an avid installer of it, but I'm looking at it and thinking, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you at least entertain looking at this stuff? Because hopefully it'll help cover ground in the future when a new update comes and you need to put an AFDD in that board, and hopefully you don't have to change the full board to add that in. And like I think you mentioned, was it 19? I didn't write. It's the only one bit.
1988.
1988. Yeah. So things have basically stayed the same connection-wise into those boards since that time, I believe you said. So or the talk set.
So the Busbar fixing centre, yeah. So 1992. Yeah, so 32 years now. Yeah, and we're committed to any new product that we bring out, we'll have that Busbar fixing centre.
Yeah. So it's you kind of covering yourself for those future editions.
Yeah.
How many times we've been to an install and it needs a double module device in, and there's no kind of double module bus bar to connect it, and you think, well, how the heck is he having to put another enclosure next to it to supply it, and it's just a mess about. And actually knowing that you guys kind of look at all of that is really encouraging for us as installers. So yeah, I would urge anybody that can spare the time to come and have a look around. It's been fantastic.
Yeah, you'll get you a free lunch as well.
At the
very worst.
I've got a little red light in my office as soon as Proteus got a tour on, it says free lunch. Yeah, I'm down for that. So.
Yeah, these jacket potato skins you get in Telford are pretty good, aren't they?
No, it's really good. Was there anything else that you
I think we've given that a really good overview of stuff and the effect Renewables had on Proteus and what they're doing to help us. There's nothing else I've really got to ask unless there's anything you want to cover, Pete.
No.
Well, good. We've not given you any too hard questions. I don't think there was any really. I think it was just literally an overview of the products that you have, the offering that you guys have, both in domestic and commercial, industrial, and all of that. And to definitely check them out and have a look. So, yeah, I'll lead us out then, shall I?
Yeah, you take us out.
Thank you very much for watching the Renewables podcast. Thanks to Mark and Pete for being on it as well and guiding us through. So if you like this episode, please like and share it if you can. We're trying to gain a bit of traction with this and get some guests on that can talk about things like we've done today, but also customers, which we've done an episode on already, manufacturers, even down to plumbers. We'll even have plumbers on. We are looking to expand that and keep the content and the channel growing. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.